Hey everybody, Sydney with Slow Formations here, and today we're going to be doing standard issue knitting slash fiber art podcast. So I have finished objects, whips, acquisitions. Initially I thought I didn't have a lot to talk about today, but as I kind of gathered my thoughts of what I've accomplished since my last podcast video, I actually do have quite a bit to talk about today. I will just say a lot of the items that I'm going to be talking about kind of more at length today have appeared in several of my vlog videos. So if you have been here before and seen some of these objects might look familiar to you, but I'm basing this off of where I was my last podcast episode. So with that being said, I'm gonna just jump right into it, starting with my finished objects. So as of that last episode, I did finish this top that I am wearing today. I'm not gonna stand up and do kind of a full show of the tank top right now, but I did finish this. I think in the last podcast episode, I think I had most everything done except for the buttons. So I did sew these buttons on and I have worn this a couple times already, and I'm very happy with how this turned out. There are a couple of tweaks that I could do to make it better, but I simply don't care enough to rip back anything and make those little tweaks. I think the only people that would ever notice any of the errors, if they notice at all, would be other knitters or fiber artists. So I am truthfully not worried about it. I've definitely grown out of my perfectionist state of mind when it comes to my fiber art, so I am just going to bask in that while I can. So in the future I might decide that I want to redo something, but for now this is good. It fits me pretty well and I'm happy with the buttons. It was my first time doing a double knit button band with buttons included, so kind of a fun little experiment. I did the one side of the button band on here does extend a little bit further past like the bottom edge of like the main part of the garment, which that's probably what bothers me the most, but again, not enough to redo a whole button band. And if you've ever knit a button band before, you totally get that. So this is probably like my only larger finished object. Of course, for July it was Tour de Fleece, so I had a lot of spinning during July and I didn't get a ton of knitting done. And if you want to learn more about a lot of my spinning finished objects, you can watch that in my Tour de Fleece vlog video if you haven't already. But mostly just knitted finished objects today, and a lot of them are going to be a little bit smaller. So I mentioned also in my last vlog that my friend Lex of 43 Artisan Co is opening up a retail space. She's asked a couple of local makers, local to her, to sell some of our items in her space. So I have passed along some of my smaller items that I sell at my markets to her, and so I've kind of been replenishing some of that in the meantime. So to start with that, I think this was my first finished objects that I had if I'm going chronologically. So here are some Tabi mittens that I've made, and I've actually been working on making a pattern for these, and I'll talk more about that. But I really obviously love the color. It definitely matches my hair. It matched it a little bit more previously. I've had these like dark spots added in, but obviously I saw this yarn. I went out of town and I don't have any local yarn shops where I live anymore, and I knew I wanted to buy some yarn specifically to make some new items and also to help flesh out my Tabi mitten pattern that I'm working on. So saw this, instantly bought it. Since I'm talking about these now, I did get this yarn as a new acquisition, and this is Jody Long Artesano luxurious blend of Corriedale wool, alpaca, and silk, painted by Peruvian artisans, it says. So here's the tag. There we go. There's the tag for the yarn that I used for that. And I really enjoyed working with this yarn. The colors were perfect. I really thought the blend of it was very interesting and it feels very nice. It has kind of the tweediness with the blue and all of my favorite colors in there, orange and yellow and green. So obviously bought this, and then I had purchased 2 skeins, so I made this hat as well. This one I did follow a pattern. I think it's called My Baker's Hat, and I can't remember what the author is off the top of my head, but I'll of course mention that somewhere. And this, I actually held 2 strands of the yarn together. I was simply not interested in doing like a DK or fingering weight hat. I think it's a DK. I was not interested in doing that. So I held it double, and I really like how this turned out with the thickness of the yarn that way. And it has, of course, a folded brim. There's a little pearl bump detail on the brim where you fold it. And yeah, so these together are going to be, I'll probably have them listed separately, but these are going to be available on my website and for markets, because I have a couple more markets to get me through to the end of the year. This is going to be another kind of dual finished object and acquisition. So like I mentioned, I have been working on a Tabi mitten pattern, and I bought this yarn. I brought quite a few different colors. I bought 4 of these. It's by Kelbourne Woolens. It's 60% merino, 20% Highland wool, and 20% mohair. And this is like, again, this is like one of my thing does not want to focus on anything but me today. This is probably one of my favorite yarns I've ever worked with as far as like my ideal texture and just feel for a yarn. Like this really just scratches that itch for me. This is perfect. Unfortunately, I bought this at Around the Table Yarns in Cleveland, and the person that was working there actually told me that Kelbourne Woolens discontinued this line of their yarns, so I'm very sad about that. But I bought a bunch of different colors. So I bought this, the like caramel color. I bought yellow, of course, like a nice like emerald kind of shade, as well as this red. And then I also bought this blue. And so, okay, so if you've been following me for a little bit, you know I make like a 2-tone Tabi mitten. And so with the pattern that I want to make, I want to include just the single color as well as the 2-tone color, where there's one color for the pointer finger and the thumb, and then these fingers are a separate color. And I think I'm going to move forward with doing it for like this fingering. This says it's a sport weight, but I think it's more of like a fingering. But for like a fingering sport weight of yarn compared to my prior patterns were more for like a DK. So I am going to work on making them with a thinner yarn. And so this one has quite a few refinements done compared to this. And you can kind of see just by me holding them up, there are quite a few differences, and I am much happier with how this turned out. I also did try, I thought I was onto something here, but you can see I have not moved forward with this. So you can see this is like where I was moving forward with like the 2-tone that I did historically, and then I tried to do, well, I did do it. It did work as far as doing the separate thumb gusset, and then I was gonna have the thumb be a different color, and then the one finger was gonna be one, and the 3 fingers were gonna be another. But I think I just didn't like how the thumb gusset didn't like align with this, and it just didn't turn out kind of how I originally envisioned it. I don't know. Does this look good? Do people like this? Should I like start over with this again? I don't know. So anyway, I'm working on that. So this is one of my prototypes. Again, I'm gonna make a couple of adjustments from what I did here for my final pattern, but these will also be available for sale in my shop. And then last but not least, I think for finished objects, I made a couple scrunchies. So these I think showed up in my last vlog. I knit the bulk of it on my knitting machine, and then all I do is I seam up the edge, so I make a circle, and then I do a Kitchener stitch, so it's seamless. There's no like cast off, cast on edges, and unless you're really looking for it, you're not going to even be able to tell where I put them together. So I also sell these at markets and on my website. So I originally was doing these all by hand on like sock knitting needles, and I would hand knit everything, but then I'm like, why would I do that when I can just knit the bulk of it on my knitting machine? So I've recently started knitting these on my knitting machine, and I usually just use like scrap fingering weight or like mohair yarns to make these. So it's a nice way to use up my scraps, and I always find that people like just like small things at markets to grab because not everyone wants to buy like a knitted sweater or something. So these are the last of my finished objects. Moving on to whips, I do have one that was mentioned in my first podcast episode, and I've made quite a bit of progress so far. And that is my Elizabeth blouse. And I of course don't have this set up in any nice way, but I have a lot of progress. I have everything done except for one sleeve. I've even blocked some of it because I wanted to see how this yarn was going to respond to being washed and just see how much it grew. And so this is Malabrigo it's the one Arroyo, and I think the shade is Acorn. And I'll of course link that below, but it's just like a variegated browns and yellows. And so a couple things on this. I effed up the pattern because I don't know how to read and I was being lazy. Full disclosure, this is the first like garment pattern I've done in quite a long time. I had spent probably the last year or two mostly just doing self-drafted patterns other than socks. So this is like my first full garment in a long time where I followed a pattern and I messed it up. So what happened was, I think it was probably right after you join from doing the double knit button band here, and then you continue in the round and you continue on with raglan increases. And I think it was at that point that you weren't supposed to increase more for the sleeve and it was just body increases, and I totally decided to ignore the part where it said to not increase for the sleeves. So of course I was starting my sleeve and I didn't bother counting my like initial stitches. I'm just like, oh, pick up 12 stitches for the underarm. Like I don't need to double check and make sure. And yeah, needless to say, when I got to like the final cuff edge count, when I was like, yeah, I can count whatever this amount of stitches is, this isn't a lot of counting, and I'm like, I have like 20 more stitches than what I'm supposed to now. So I have tried this on and it's fine. It's obviously not what it's supposed to be, but it definitely wasn't enough for me to undo it, especially considering I would have literally had to have undone it all the way up to where I joined in the round from here. And that just simply was not going to happen. So I finished off the sleeve. I'm on to my second sleeve. This is all the yarn I have left, and I think what I'm hoping I can do, which I'm not sure that I can, but once I finish the second sleeve, because the arms are now a little bit baggier than they're supposed to be for like the fit of the garment, if I have anything extra, I'm going to cut off some of the bottom, and so I will pick up like stitches, one row like above, put them on hold, and pick up stitches from like cutting off the bottom, and then I'm going to continue knitting up from like whatever the bottom chunk is and get some extra length to the garment, and then Kitchener, Kitchener, do my surgery, get everything back together, and add a little bit of extra length to the body. And I think that will help to balance out the extra width and fabric that I have on the sleeves, is to just make the body a little bit longer, because right now it does kind of hit like right like at my hips, like where like mid low rise pants would fall. So it is a good length had I followed the pattern, but because I didn't, I think making it a little bit longer will just balance that out. And if I don't have enough yarn to do that, then I think it's gonna be fine. Again, I think it's like one of those things that unless you're a knitter, like you're not even gonna think twice about anything. It definitely still looks good. I've tried it on. I've even wet blocked it just to make sure that I wasn't in a crisis, and I think everything's gonna be fine. And then my next whip that I just started the other day because I needed a portable whip is I am officially off of my sock ban, and I am allowing myself to knit some socks again. So this is, again, a new acquisition yarn, and I don't think I have the label in front of me. One second, maybe I do. I lied. I do have the label. So here is what this is. And it's Circulo Lucky Feet. I also got this when I was in, no, I didn't get this in Cleveland. I got this in Buffalo a little while ago, and I've been holding on to it. It's a 75% superwash merino, 25% polyamide. And it's this very pretty hand-painted yarn, greens, browns, light greens. So staying, in the realm of my color palette. And I am knitting, it's the Hibernal sock. Okay, so here's something about me that I personally hate about myself, but this was my first sock pattern I've ever done, and it's a mock cable. So you're doing like slipped stitches and like slipping them over and all that stuff. And so like it's not a vanilla sock. Like there is a little bit of complexity to it, but there's definitely a rhythm to the pattern. But this is my first sock pattern that I had ever done, and I did it with black yarn naturally, because that makes sense. Why would I pick a light colored yarn in a vanilla sock for my first sock ever? And needless to say, those are not my best pair of socks, but I did get them done. It took me a very long time because, yeah, it was just not a good thing. But so anyway, of course, naturally, again, I've mostly done vanilla socks still. I've done a lace pattern, and then I did that one color work pair. But yeah, I am doing a variegated dark base yarn for the same pattern again. But I feel like I was a little concerned at first that the variegation of the yarn would maybe lose the pattern, but I think it still like adds some like textural interest to the sock. I think a vanilla sock just like wasn't the vibe that I was going for. Like this is definitely like fall vibes, and I feel like the mock cable just helps really give it that like essence. So yeah, I just started this not too long ago. I needed a mobile project. We're gonna be doing some traveling next week, so I'm already preparing for making sure I have a project for on the go. But yeah, this is the first one, so I'm like not far at all. And the last that I have to talk about my works in progress is the infamous Coopworth fleece endeavor. Okay, I have great like progress. I have a full bobbin done, and this was spun on my electric eagle wheel 6, of course. And with this, I am really trying to do like a lower twist, and I'm hoping to end up with a 2-ply DK weight. So I am trying to spin a little bit thicker than I normally would, and I have everything prepped. Everything has been carded at this point, and I do have, I'm going to talk more about that when I get to my acquisitions, and that might allude to what I have acquired. But everything is prepped at this point, and now I am spinning. I have my second bobbin started. I have another market at my studio this Saturday. So the place where I have my studio, they hold like a market. So there's like a bunch of vendors in the parking lot, but I always get a ton of spinning done on market days. So I will be bringing a bunch of my Coopworth bats and my EO wheel, and I will be spinning. So I'm hoping to maybe get like some pretty good progress done, maybe like fill up another bobbin. But yeah, that's all I have for my works in progress. And now for my acquisitions. So I did talk about quite a few of my yarn acquisitions already, that Kelbourne Woolens yarn and the yarn that I made this set with. I also got one more skein of yarn when we were in Cleveland, and it is this skein here. And this is Khusku, Khusku, and it is a hand-painted blend of merino, bamboo, and nylon. So I purchased this because I have been on the hunt for a more like summer-esque yarn, sock yarn, and yeah, I wanted something with bamboo or yeah, anything else that would be more summer appropriate. So 40% wool, 40% bamboo viscose, and 20% nylon. I am excited to make some socks with this. It'll probably just be, this does not want to cooperate for me today. There we go. Yeah, so pretty neutral colorway. I'll probably just knit this in a vanilla sock, and I'm not sure when I will get around to this, maybe in the spring next year. I definitely have some, like, I've been acquiring a lot of non-superwash and non-synthetic fiber sock yarns that I'm very excited to knit with this winter. So I will be knitting those first before I get around to this. This will probably be a spring project. All right, so I'm gonna start with the acquisition that I am the most excited about. I have it behind me here, but I bought a new drum carder, and new to me, this is used. I don't believe in buying new fiber processing equipment if I can avoid it. I think the only fiber processing products are like, I think the only fiber processing pieces of equipment that I bought new were some of my hand cards and my blending board. But here's my drum carder, and I think it is, the lady who I bought this from didn't know what the TPI was. I think it is probably a 90, but it might be a 120. And it's an Ashford drum carder. Yeah, I got this on Facebook Marketplace. And so I have finished carding my Coopworth bats on that drum carder, and let me just tell you that it has made the spinning process so much better. That higher TPI I didn't think would make that big of a difference, but let me tell you, it has like literally changed the game and how nice these bats are. And I think it like fits probably 4 ounces of fiber. And so all of the bats that I made on my Lewitt Jr. that I've had, I recarded through my new Ashford drum carder. And so now I just have all these, like, this one's kind of sloppy looking, but I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5.5 bats left. I think I got maybe 3 or 4 bats on here. So yeah, I'm super excited about that drum carder. I have a bunch of other fibers that need carded. I've been really wanting to make bats to sell at my market and have on my website. And I've been like hoarding some fibers specifically that I've been wanting to make bats with. So I'm super excited to use that. I am really focusing on getting this Coopworth project done now. That I have everything prepped, and it's the only spinning project I have right now. I've even found some patterns on Ravelry that I'm thinking I will make with the yarn once it's done. And yeah, that drum carder has literally changed my life, and I'm debating on if I'm going to sell my Lewitt Jr. or if I'm going to keep it for, I do like some teaching endeavors when it comes to fiber art, so I think that might be a good thing to keep on hand for if I'm ever teaching people how to do things. I might want it, I don't know. My next acquisition is actually another fiber processing tool. So just for a little background, there is a woman named Jill. Come to find out later down the line, she is part of the fiber guild that I now go to, but I had purchased my Lewitt Jr. drum carder off of her maybe 2.5 years ago. So it was my first time meeting Jill. Later down the line, I purchased a tent from her, like a tent for selling at markets. And when I went and bought the tent from her, I was chatting about how I found this new local fiber guild, and come to find out Jill, of course, is part of the fiber guild. And so I've seen her there a couple of times, and during one of the fiber guild meetings, it came out that I do software engineering for my day job, and because we were talking about building out a website for the guild, and Jill had asked if I would ever be interested in helping her build a website. And I was like, of course, like I would love to do that. And so she had mentioned that she had some combs that she would like to do a trade for. So I help her build a website, and she's gonna give me her wool combs because she's doing mostly weaving these days and isn't really processing fibers anymore. So I now, let's see if I can get these out of here, I'm the owner of Wool Combs, and these are handmade. So I'm like scared to even like deal with these. They're literal weapons. And so I don't remember what the person's name was, but they made the combs. They made this, like a thing that you clamp onto the table and you put the combs in it so then you can comb off of it while the combs are on the table. And then there's a little diz, and even the basket's handmade. So that was my part of what I got from the trade of helping Jill with her website. And I haven't done anything with these yet. I really don't know where in my house I will use these, because if you've been here before, you know there's like a zoo of animals here. It definitely worries me to just have like the combs around. So this might be an activity that I can only do at my studio, where I don't have to worry about like animals hurting themselves. And I mean, I'm honestly worried about even myself hurting myself doing these. But while I was at her house helping her, we were talking about website stuff, and she was giving me the combs. We used them. She had me bring some wool locks, and so I brought some of these Romney locks with me. And this camera does not want to focus today. That's fine. Anyway, I brought these Romney locks with me, and I made my couple little like rovings on the combs and put it through the diz. And so I have these two nice little Romney guys now that I can spin. As per usual, my camera died, so I'm now recording on my phone because well, my camera didn't die, it overheated, so I'm not waiting for it to cool down. And I think I got a little like cooling fan for it, but I think it does create some like noise that you can hear on the videos, so I am not messing with that. And we're gonna finish off on my phone because I am almost done. But anyway, I don't know where it died, but long story short, Jill is like a real MVP. She gave me these awesome combs, and I'm looking forward to processing some fiber with those. And last but not least, the last acquisition I want to talk about has appeared in my Tour de Fleece vlog as well, but I'm not going to bring it over here. But it is an Ashford traditional wheel that I also bought on Facebook Marketplace. True life, I am a fiber processing tool hoarder. I cannot pass up a good deal, especially if it's something that like I don't have. If you spin and process fibers, you know, like I can't tell you how many wheels I have tried to get on Facebook Marketplace that have been up for like 2 hours only to find out that someone else is already like on the way to go pick it up. It's literally insane. So like with the drum carter, with the wheel, I saw them, they were reasonably priced and in driving range. I'm like, I am going to get that. So yeah, I got the Ashford traditional wheel. I think it's like a 1980 something version, and it works great. I had an Ashford maintenance kit already at my house because my first wheel that I got on Facebook Marketplace was a Ashford Kiwi, and so I already had a maintenance kit. I had all of the pieces I needed to get this wheel working, and yeah, I don't remember. I think I spun a Poolworth silk on there, and yeah, I will probably spin after my Coopworth, whatever I spin next, I would like to spin on that wheel. But yeah, that is my last acquisition. So mostly fiber processing tools. That is my kryptonite. Some people are like really into yarn buying. Like, don't get me wrong, I like buying yarn. The yarn that I did mention in this video, I already had like clear purposes for. Like, I knew I needed them for like specific things I had in mind. So I think that's fine. I'm definitely not one of those people that just like buys a ton of yarn without a plan. My stash is pretty reasonable and I have things in mind for all of them. It's just a matter of, with everything that I do, fiber arts related, and like having a job and a partner, and I teach yoga, all of these things, I just like don't have time to get through it in a reasonable pace, especially considering how slow everything is. So anyway, that is all. So I will be working on that pattern for the Tabi mittens. If that is anything you're interested in, I'll probably do like a tester call through my Instagram. So if you are interested in that, at some point you can follow me over there. I may or may not, I'm debating on if I want to do a YouTube tutorial for that. I'm not exactly sure if it's going to be, if I'm going to have a video version and a written version. It just kind of depends. This is my first time that I'm going to be writing a pattern, so I just don't really know what I'm getting myself into. I have a couple more videos in mind that I want to do in the near future. I'm not sure how much vlogging videos I will have, but I would like to get one of these podcast episodes out at least once a month at a minimum. Thanks so much for being here. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear if any of you have gotten some just like crazy like marketplace steals, whether it's like fiber art related or not. Put it in the comments below if you've just gotten some just like amazing Facebook Marketplace finds. And yeah, thanks for being here, guys, and see you in the next one. Bye.